All right, so Charlie is here talking about the new Fantastic Four movie. Now, I watched it, I enjoyed it, but I really want to hear what he has to say.
I had a piece of stubborn lip skin that I ripped off right before starting this recording, so my lip might bleed a little bit. Don't be concerned. That's
Oh,
just
we're
part of
praying.
being
We're
31
praying.
years old now. Even something as simple as taking a little bit of chapped lip skin off is enough to have me bleeding profusely, it seems. But you know what else is bleeding? Marvel at the
Yeah.
box office. Now, this is a conversation in cinema that happens more frequently than people debating whether or not Sam and Frodo were gay. So many people since the end of Endgame have talked about how Marvel is dead and dying, and that
The
super.
problem is that Marvel has consistently released so many bad movies, in between then, bad shows, bad press, just so much amalgamation of like bad releases on top of it. The writing has gone sufficiently down. The Hulk is not even there. I don't pretend that's Hulk. I know it's a version in the comics, but nobody wants that Hulk. People like the Green Monster because that's what he is. We need the monster back in the movies. It's very upsetting. It's very much tickling the nerd inside me, and it upsets me every time I see him in a V-neck doing yoga. Okay? That is not what he's a monster. He's a monster movies. That's what Marvel doesn't understand. It's a great opportunity to make your own version of like a smaller Godzilla, in my opinion. He's a monster, you know? The big green fucking monster, bro. And it really upsets me. It does, okay? As a nerd, as a guy who's read a decent amount of comics, this person who's grown up with these people want to see their portrayals being brought to the forefront. And a lot of these characters, I just feel like are kind of, even if you put that aside, okay? Even if you put that aside, Marvel has also released a lot of bad shows. The Captain America show with Bucky, I forgot what it's called, the Winter Soldier, um, and Sam Frank. What's his name? Falcon. And yeah, it was it just they've really so many other bad shows in between then that nobody really cared about. Bad movies that nobody cared about. The second season of Loki was disappointing for a lot of people. Um, yeah, overall, it's just been so many flops that I think that's kind of what also drove it. And I think also, people aren't talking about this for, essentially, what's his name? For the Fantastic Four, it released during Superman being right next to it, which I just don't think helped because everyone who's going to go see a hero film is going to go see that one, in my opinion, more because it's kind of like it's something different and it's kind of like a big hero. Fantastic Four is as well, but they has had a lot of mixed movies, and it's Superman. He's such a big name, a lot of draw. But I don't think that helped at all. I got his name wrong. Sam Wilson, Falcon. Oh my god, totally forgot. But yeah, let's just X that out.
Superhero fatigue had finally reached its molten core where everyone was done.
I do think also there is some fatigue, 100%. I do think that Marvel should have taken a break, in my opinion. I really think they should have just kind of wheeled it back instead of just going and just completely like after Endgame, they should have just taken a break and figured out what they want to do instead of like this steady stream of movies no one really liked. The Marvels was terrible. In my opinion, Thor: Love and Thunder was awful. It was awful. In my opinion, it's one of the worst Marvel. People might find that controversial, but the jokes were so bad. I could not take it. I was literally pulling my hair out. It was some of the worst jokes I've seen. It was terrible. It was awful. It was like scary. It was too much for me. I couldn't take it personally. And then like the only thing decent in the movie was like the action bits here and there. There were like some cool effects. The God Butcher, I forgot his name. I'm gonna forget a lot of these names. I'm bad with names, okay, guys. So don't. I am a fan. I've watched all these films, read a decent amount of comics. But yeah, what's his name? God Butcher, whatever. Regardless, it was this. Yeah, it was just. It's been a steady stream of a lot of bad films, some bad shows, um, some decent movies here and there. If I'm being fair, I like Guardians 3. I like Deadpool, it was fun. But yeah, it's just not been a good time to be a Marvel fan.
Done with MCU and how bad the quality was, but despite all
I would say that's not completely fair because there's so much more media for Marvel fans now. However, you know, I don't blame Disney for this, but there is something I do want to complain. Just a side note: the Max series on, because I have the app for comics on Marvel, and they don't even have the Max series for Punisher. Um, Getting rid of things like that really bothered me, and I really wish we would bring that back. It's part of Marvel's history. It's a really good line for Punisher. Jessica Jones was introduced to that, and she has like a following. So I would feel like they should bring things like that back. I wish we would have more mature comics for some of these, Marvel characters a little bit more often. Things that kind of push the envelope. Just an 18 plus version of the app, something very wishful thinking. It's never gonna happen. But that is something I do wish Marvel would still take an approach, is that a lot of people who are Marvel fans are a lot older now. I'm old, guys. I wish that they would, take this in consideration. And maybe some of their movies needs a bit of that. Maybe it needs a little bit more grit, some more maturity, different types of stories. You don't necessarily need that, for being fair. They need different types of stories, well-written characters. They needed to take a break, but if they're gonna keep going, they need to like really hammer down what made them great and trying to not pursue whatever social shit here and there, like the little things, like, because I do think that affects them. Now, I'm not against, like, people will say that like it's all the social messaging that's ruined them. I'm not against if you want to have some corny social message in your stuff. In fact, a lot of good movies do have them, but you can't. The writing can't suck. And it seems like when they start going down that right route, it goes like one or the other. Either we have some ham-fisted jokes in there about like some social issues. Maybe people will call it the woke stuff. And it is to some degree. It is bad. It's terrible. And it's not because in itself it's bad. If you want to tell a message, whatever a story wants to tell, if it's well told, you're not going to care that much. Is that it's just so ham-fisted and overwrought. Blah, and I think it's a little bit in Marvel, it's like jokes here, but it's mostly, I would say it's like 90% just terrible writing. Just awful writing. The woke shit does affect it. It's had some bad things in there, but it's just god awful writing. So I
of
don't.
that hoopla, pretty much all of the MCU projects did decently well for the
Yeah.
most part. Like, even unanimously hated stinkers like Ant-Man Quantumania still generated like $500 million. But the quality did significantly decline, and a lot of people were getting tired of it. And some of them did actually not do well, like the Marvels. But
Yeah.
on the whole, the
Terrible.
MCU was still
Whoever thought? So if you guys haven't seen it, don't bother. Don't waste your time. I'm just gonna spoil it. I don't care. I hate the movie. Skip this if you don't care. Whoever thought? Let's take away second running of Ms. Marvel, Captain Marvel. They take away her powers for her second film after her first film was widely criticized and was like contentious, to say the least. Like, people really, like, you should have given her a good outing. Like, hey, there's gonna be your second movie. We're gonna bring you back. We're gonna make you a really good movie this time. But instead, they took away her powers, introduced two other characters, and no one, honestly, sorry to say, no one gives a fuck about. It should have just been her movie. Completely, in my opinion, just ruined it when she had so much trouble with her MCU debut. They just completely shit on it, which was such a bad choice for so many reasons. Such a bad choice. I have no idea why they decided to do that. Also, I don't even remember her name. Like, there were some cheesy, you know, there are some cheesy jokes in there, man. But even besides that, it was just bad writing to introduce two other characters no one gave a fuck about. Kamala Khan, Ms. Marvel, I like her. I'm not gonna say nobody gives a fuck about her, even though I've said that twice. But I don't think that was a movie to introduce her. I think she should have had her. If they're gonna do it, maybe do it in a different way and not bring in the third character, but like also taking away their powers to have like some weird, like, I don't know, adventure, like bad film. I don't know, man. It was just terrible. It was so boring. And the character they fought, it was like a woman empowerment movie. It was also a woman villain. It was a woman villain, all women heroes who saved the day. And also like it was like some multicultural slop fest. It was it was very goofy. I don't know. It was very goofy. Yeah, I have no idea what they were doing. That if you want to argue DEI for that one, I can't even. I mean, there were some jokes in there. Use your black girl use your black girl superpowers. It's like, what? What? What are you saying, man? That's like one of the legitimate jokes. And then one of the things that were cut out was that they were talking about, dude, this is crazy, but they were talking about like some lesbian sex scene or lesbian like jokes between Captain Marvel and the little girl Ms. Marvel. Which she's older now. So I guess it's fine to make those jokes, but it's like, it's just weird. It's just weird. It just felt very DEI. It was like, can you guys? I'm glad they cut that out because it was like, I think they even saw like, this is a little too much. This is a little too much. Let me see if I can find it. We just skip ahead to the part.
Captain, my captain.
Oh, here.
New Asgard.
Hello? Oh, Captain, my captain. Oh, you're not my captain.
Captain Marvel resident, this is Miss Marvel speaking. How can... You're Valkyrie!
'Tis I. Wait, Mrs. Marvel. She got married again, and no invite again.
No! I'm Ms. Marvel. We're not married, that would be... I'm single.
Okay.
5 seconds to the jump point.
Oh, you might want to strap on. Strap in.
Huh?
Did you hear that? Did you catch that? You might want to strap on, strap in. And then she was talking about him and Captain Marvel possibly being married. So obviously making an inside or a joke about them being lesbians, which is like, it's just in an amalgamation of everything. Just seems like kind of a little much. It's a little much, you know. Calm the fuck down, dude. Who are we trying to appeal to, man? I'm gonna be honest. A lot of the people who go see, a lot of regular people go see this, but a lot of people who are main supporters of this shit are a lot of sweaty comic book reading bros. Sorry to break it to you. A lot of nerdy people who like all this shit too, but and I think they realize that. Luckily, they cut that out, but like, it's just a little too much. Like, we not only have multiple characters who are of different ethnicity playing in the forefront of our movies, and we should make them all, we should make one of them lesbians. And their villains should be a woman. Let's just all, make a woman version of Ronin. It's like, and even that, I would be like, fine, whatever. But it was just so fucking, like, come on, dude. It's too much, man. And I feel like people want to say, oh, the DEI woke people are fucking out of their mind, blah, blah, blah. And to some degree, it's overdone on both sides, in my opinion. I'm not, I don't want to say I'm on anybody's side. I like to try to stay somewhat objective, but come on, man. There are limits. There are points where you're just like, what the fuck am I looking at? Recently, the One Piece character Vivi got changed to like a Indian woman. I don't mind that actually, or like a black woman. I don't mind that because she was Egyptian. Things like that where people are complaining. I'm like, yeah, but like you want to talk about comic accuracy? Yes. That Vivi was played by a white girl previously, but the character is like literally like in Egypt. So I mean, like that one is, I think, is like way more understandable. And I don't even know. Even Usopp, they've changed to being black, which I don't even care. Ever don't care. Because I feel like a lot of people could see that. If you watch the show, a lot of people could feel. If I'm just being real. But like stuff like this, it's like, come the fuck on, man. Come the fuck. Can we be real? Can we be
fine in the box office, but it was showing signs of weakness. Now they've released 2 decent movies back to back, Thunderbolts and Fantastic Four. But they're not exactly doing the billion-dollar nut busting that the MCU was known for. Fantastic Four is experiencing a 80% drop from its debut, so going into its second week here, it has declined significantly. It had a great start, and it had incredibly strong...
Yeah, I thought it was going to do well, because in its first start, it sold pretty well, but it just did. It bombed. It bombed bad, unfortunately. And I'm sure it still sold well overall, and it probably will sell overall better. But it sucks because it's like the forefront of their new age. And Fantastic Four desperately needed a good, well-reviewed movie. And this is like one that actually did it, because their last two series were generally not well-reviewed. And I was hoping that this one would be it. And it is well-reviewed, but no one wanted to see it, which is a bummer, because I think it's a decent movie. I think it's a good movie.
Word of mouth, but it doesn't seem like that's...
You know what's another big miss is Blade. They completely fucked Blade, bro. From what I heard, from the script of it, it was gonna be him and his daughter, which is such a fucking misfire. How the fuck? Who thought, and she was gonna take over, he's gonna be retired. We haven't had a Blade movie in fucking forever. So you decide to you're gonna possibly put him in for him to retire. That's what I heard of the script writers. But even if he wasn't going to retire, is this going to be because I might have misread that. This is all memory, okay? So I could be completely off. But his daughter is going to be in it, and he's going to be training her up for it. I'm like, you want a Blade movie? We haven't had a Blade movie in fucking forever. So why are you going to introduce a completely different character is supposed to be like running the show with him? When it's a Blade we haven't had a Blade movie in like fucking 15 years, man. So like, he deserves a spotlight. Maybe the sequel, you could do something like that. Maybe the sequel, you can have a little fun like that. But people would want to see Blade back in action. And you guys completely fucked it so bad that they had multiple rewrites and then eventually got fucking scrapped.
Translating to asses and seats. And Thunderbolts was the same thing. People saw it, they were surprised by how good it was, saying, you know, Marvel's fucking back, baby. Fuck all your seatbelts, because we are in it again.
Yeah.
But then that also didn't have the strongest box office run. Which is now leading to the bigger conversation that's been had a lot about the state of the MCU. Are people just tired of it? Is superhero fatigue really setting in now, finally? Or is it mainly just Marvel? Because Superman has done great in the box office. It has been fucking slapping in the box office. And it's a good movie. Thunderbolts and Fantastic Four are also good movies, especially in a sea of dog shit that Marvel had been farting out for quite a few years, with a few exceptions like Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 3. And now it's left a lot of people wondering, well, what the fuck's going on? Why are they not having strong box office performances when these are finally some decent films from Marvel again? And to be fair, I think it's a little overblown with Fantastic Four flopping and all of that with that narrative that's being spun. It's still at $370 million worldwide in its second weekend. That is still pretty solid, but... Yeah. Against its budget and its marketing, it still needs to make like $450 million or something from the reports I read. Same with the Thunderbolts. The Thunderbolts generated $380 million total across its lifespan in theaters, and it needed about $450 million for that break even. So like, it still does have a little ways to go, but it's not doing like dreadfully. Like, I don't think all the Marvel execs are in full force panic mode, sweating, contemplating, sitting on a cactus or something, like worried that it's all dried up and Marvel's dead. But it is less than you would expect for some actually good Marvel movies. It's an interesting topic because, again, this is a conversation that's been had a lot, but I had always just said, yeah, the films have gotten worse, but there's always going to be an audience for it. They're always going to make like over $500 million. Yeah. Turns out that is not the case. These are better movies than the ones that were coming before it and performing much.
The sad thing is, like I was saying, this is like Marvel actually, it feels like they're coming back. It was actually a good step forward. I felt like they were going to make some solid movies. And I was like, hey, if this is the quality they're going to continue with, which I hope, fingers crossed, it seems like we're maybe out of the hole, because we've had a little bit more recently. We've had a couple of decent movies in between. So like, you know, people want to shit on Captain America. Hey, they rewrote it at least. They realized it was shit. Apparently there was some rewrites. And even if it didn't release good, it was like very forgettable movie. It wasn't terrible, I think, to be fair. Very forgettable. I was like, I'm not, I don't even care about this. There are some parts that are pretty bad though, if I'm being real. But it was nice to see them trying to, it's nice that they're trying to do some kind of quality control and realize like, hey, these need a bit of work. And we've had some good movies. Thunderbolts was pretty good. Captain America it was bad, but it was not that bad. That's how I'll phrase it. That's how I will phrase it. It was but hey, that's something. Hey, and we had Fantastic Four. Good movies. Thunderbolts, I feel like was a little overhyped. I liked it, but it's definitely overhyped in my opinion. But it's definitely a good step in the right direction. That's how I feel. We also had Deadpool, Guardians. There are good movies coming out more recently, so like that's why I'm like I don't want to be doomer. People shouldn't be so doomer because things are possibly looking up.
Better, but it really does seem like people are checking out.
Marvel Rivals is doing well too.
A lot of people are starting to view the MCU kind of like homework that you have to do, like prerequisite reading.
100% true. There's too much connection to other fucking media. There's way too. You have to watch this movie. I remember talking to somebody, and they don't even watch any of this shit. They don't really care. They don't even, it's whatever. So I like to hear their viewpoint. I was like, oh, did you watch the event? This is way back when, and I was like, oh, did you watch Avengers movie? You're like, yeah, but I had no idea what was going on. I don't know who these characters were. There's like a lot of them, and from what they were saying, to summarize it, and I was like, yeah. I mean, I could see that from like just a regular viewer who's just like heard all the hype and was like, oh, what's this? Avengers, I want to go see this. Now maybe it's their fault, but they just wanted to see something popular. So they went to go see it, and we're just a little bit confused. But it can be harsh from a viewer's perspective. All these connections to different characters and getting into it. I would say of the Avengers is probably the worst one you could have done it. But yeah, they're doing this bad thing with all there's so many callbacks in other films to other films, and it kind of detracts from it. It felt what I think the Fantastic Four did really well is that it was just its own solitary good story. And I think they should do that more.
And watching the shows beforehand and catch up on like 5 and 6 movies just to be able to go watch one of the films and understand or appreciate it. So a lot of people found that to be kind of tedious. And also I think a lot of people...
maybe they're trying to treat it like comics, where you kind of want to know a little bit about the other ones. But a lot of the best comics I've read don't really have a huge connection to the other ones. Sometimes it's nice to have that. Like, oh, we'll call back to this issue, and they'll have like an issue on the top that you can look at. But I do like it when it's like its own solitary story, and that's where manga does really well. Manga will do just it's its own story, which I think people really like. Having to continually write around characters, and I think this is why manga is killing it right now. Can you write around characters and make interesting stories for them? It's got to be tough. And it doesn't help when you have to like read all these other random stories, and then nothing really feels like different or concludes in a comic line. Some people feel, or it just feels like just another day, and it's like, how can I get invested if it's the same thing? I think comics are good for that because you can get a lot of really interesting writers who could bring out really interesting things about the strengths of that character and can be told in a different way. And I think there's a lot of value in that. But the thing that manga really has is that it's its own solitary story, and they can have as much freedom as you want. And when you have this, when you're tied down to like certain things, it does make it harder to tell a really well written story, I feel like. But that's just me.
People were just tired of MCU in general because they would release like 4 films a year, all of which were mediocre at best. And now they've finally got 2 like pretty strong films, but a lot of people just don't really care about the word of mouth. They're just kind of done with it, it seems. Yeah. And to be honest,
again, I do think Superman did have some effect on it. Now, whether or not, because I feel like people are going to go see Superman over Fantastic Four because it's like such a huge name and they're right next to each other. But even with that, it's probably also a bit of fatigue.
Kind of hard to blame them. I can totally see why. With so many superhero movies coming out, and a lot of them in the last 5 or so years being really underwhelming, Why
Yeah.
would you keep getting excited and seeing every single new one? You know what I mean? Even the ones that do get a lot of hype and glaze, it's hard to just want to go see that because then you still have to wonder, will I even understand it? Because I didn't watch the last couple and I didn't watch any of the shows. And in Thunderbolt's case and Fantastic Four's case, you don't need to. You can go in them and entirely enjoy them by their own merit. They stand on their own two legs, especially Fantastic Four. It is all self-contained. So it sucks to see that it's not doing well, but it's not like I blame the general audience for not going and seeing it. There has been way too many underwhelming superhero films for them to
Yeah.
just blindly trust that this is
True.
finally a good one, right? But I don't think it's like superheroes in general, because Superman is proving that there is still a huge appetite for superhero movies. I think it's just Marvel has been so sullied by their bad movies over the last few years that people are just kind of yawning at it. Which puts Marvel in a
Yeah.
weird spot because they finally had this come to Jesus moment and said, what if we made good movies? And then they fucking hoisted up the guy who suggested that
True.
like some kind of hero, you know? Like the big eureka moment. How about some good films? But they're not performing that well in the box office.
Yeah.
So
Too
like
little, too
it
late.
sucks to see that, and it's weird because now they do finally understand that they need to have quality films in order to stay competitive and stay generating unfathomable amounts of money. But the general audience has kind of turned their backs on them and don't really care to hop back into the Marvel train. So they
Yeah.
have some good
That's fair.
films, but now the audience isn't, ferociously starving to consume it anymore. But they still have, of course, like the core community of like Marvel enthusiasts that are going to see every film they put out regardless. It's just now they're having a harder time reaching beyond that scope, even with extremely positive word of mouth. It definitely is a weird predicament for them to be in. I feel like they waited too long to finally start realizing we gotta try again. They can't just coast to $1 billion every time. And I think
Yeah.
the path going forward for Marvel isn't to like, I don't know, fall back into old ways or something and make like really uninteresting, boring super slop, but instead continue with this focus of making things that are actually interesting and good, like Thunderbolts and Fantastic Four, but find a way to do it without the extraordinarily bloated budget.
And the other thing I do want to say, not really related to what he's saying, but another game that had like some social messaging, because a lot of people want to point that to like some of the reason why some of these games are falling. A game that did really well recently was Clear Obscure, which did have some more progressive social, ideas, but a lot of people didn't even notice and or care because it's such a well-written story. But I didn't want to put that out there. Just as a aside, really quick.
They are not going to be making as much money as they used to. They're going to need to find a way to deliver quality productions for a fraction of the cost. They can't just mindlessly dump hundreds of millions of dollars into every single Marvel everything these days. That time is behind us now. That is in the past. I think they need to start analyzing their budgets a little tighter and figuring out ways of being creative with it so they can deliver these same kind.
I think, yes, he is right about this, 100% in my opinion. They need to start being more creative and figure out ways to just write stories people want to get butts in seats. The reason why like Deadpool and Wolverine did so well, because they're iconic characters that people wanted to see. They're rated R, and they could do some really interesting things and have a bit more fun, a little bit more freedom. Because it's their own story, they get to tell whatever they want out of it. And even though, in my opinion, what made that movie really successful is just it's just Deadpool and Wolverine, because the movie itself is a bit goofy, but it was just fun seeing these characters out in action. It brought butts to seats, them just having a good time. And story's all right. It's like, in my opinion. It had some, look at this reference. A lot of that there. But it was mostly because, we got to see some of our favorite characters come back, and that's what people want to see. They want to see some cool characters just being them. And the story helped because it wasn't attached to anything, but the story was okay, like I said, but it was mostly the characters, and they need to realize what people want and kind of listen to the audience a bit more.
Of movies that are strong, but without eating.
Bring back Hulk. Bring back the fucking Hulk, okay? Bring him back. I'm tired of it. I'm tired of it. Bring him back. I don't care how you do it. Maybe you got an extra dose of TRT steroid radiation. I don't care, okay? Bring back the fucking Hulk. I want to see some smashing, bro.
A loss on them. Like Thunderbolts, that's a film that probably didn't need $450 million box office run to break even. You probably could have delivered that same level of film.
I think a lot of it may be hiring high-end actors and things like that, and who knows? I mean, a lot huge production Hollywood budgets. To say they don't need it, I don't know. I think it's presuming a lot. Maybe the cost for the budget may be there. But I think what he's saying is that like they should be more. I'm completely misreading it. I think 100% what he's saying is that they should be more creative and come up with ideas instead of just solidarily focusing on like how can we just make this as big as Hollywood budget and crazy effects as possible, as opposed to being like how can we write a good story? How can we get people in the seats? What are good writers saying this story needs? I think that's probably what he's saying, if I'm being fair. So, in that front, I agree 100%.
For less money, so that way the 380 that it did generate could have already been at your break even. Like, I feel like there's definitely ways. Like, I think these budgets are super overblown, which isn't specific, like, exclusive to just Marvel.
That's why I don't want to say that like it is overblown, because like for some of this stuff it could vary. Making these big budget films, with all these effects and crazy stuff and post production, it costs a lot of money. So I don't know. I'm not educated, and I feel like it's presumptuous to say that maybe it could have varied. I do think it's probably bloated, probably, but but again, it's just like there's so much that goes into making these movies that I don't want to put out a theory without it being like somewhat correct. Yeah, I think just being more creative. I think it just lacks creativity, and you just think like, oh, we just have this 10th explosion, and it's this CGI thing. It's gonna really make up for it, and it's like, yeah, it's nice. Don't get me wrong. You guys have the budget. You should be swinging your theoretical dicks around when you can, if you have that type of money. But that isn't gonna be what makes the movie. What you really should be worrying about is solid writers and a good story told, in my opinion. Getting attached to these characters, having some fun action for other people is gonna be good, and a reason for the action. Something that makes people want to sit down for those big flying effects. If you want to go that route,
It's Hollywood in general. Like that fucking Netflix stinker, Electric State, had a $300 million budget or something, and that was.
But like advertisement, things like that, who knows, man? That's why I'm like, I bet they're bloated. They seem very bloated, but I would need like a full production breakdown before I even make a claim like that, because like, movies are not cheap, and these types of movies with these effects and things like that,
abominable. Like it really feels like there's some kind of fraudulent bookkeeping going on over there, some kind of fucking scam. But that's a topic I've already yapped about a lot. Point is, for Marvel now, they probably realize that the audience isn't just going.
He could be very well right. I'll just say that he could be very well right, and it does seem that way. It does very much seem that way to me.
To blindly eat everything that they feed them.
But also, I feel like cost in hiring these people have probably gone up, because I know a lot of things in like video game production has gone up quite a bit. So maybe that also has effect on like getting these people out there.
Need to keep delivering good movies, but they need to find a way to make them for less money, so that way the box office runs don't need to be colossal, historic.
I don't think that's necessary. I think budget shouldn't be an issue for these types of guys, really, because they have money to swing it around for them, and they're gonna make it back in the back end for like Marvel, because there's so much media and things out there for them to make their money back. It is overblown. They do need to figure out that. That's for sure. The budgets are crazy, and maybe figuring out a way around that. But I don't want to speak too much on that, because again, I'm not super educated in what could cause that. They do need to concentrate on what brings people in, and then what follows after that, the toys, the marketing, things like that, can make it up to some degree. But they need to forget butts in the seats. They need to return to like what makes people happy.
record-breaking performance.
And listen to your audience. There's a lot of too much connection to the other movies. A lot of not, like people are complaining about a lot of various issues, trying to make people happy. People who are long-term fans too. And people want to say it's all the DEI. I don't believe that. I don't. I think it's the bad writing. I think it's the horrific writing. DEI stuff is annoying. It is stupid. I don't like it when it's like blatantly in your face bad shit. And their games even. I mean, like people point to Spider-Man 2, and there are points where you're like, what the fuck? Like, because I'm not gonna sugarcoat it. Obviously, is what people are thinking when they talk about this movie. Is it's a big elephant in the room that people don't want to address. People like to be more in the middle. But it is there, and it is annoying, and it is bad sometimes. And they need to figure out ways if they want to do that. If they want to do that, it's up to them. I'm not going to tell you how to write your stories, but you got to do it in a little bit subtlety, and like well written. That's it. That's really it. It's the big complaint. It's horribly told. Way over
in order to generate any level of profit. Though, admittedly, I think there's a chance Marvel learns the opposite lesson, that people don't want good movies. Like, they'll turn to Thunderbolts and Fantastic Four and be like, well, we tried a quality approach. That didn't work. Let's go back to quantity. That would be a real shame. But I think there is a chance.
And people will say also, like, oh, blah, 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 all that stuff is like, you guys will just complain. People will say that, having politics in shows and movies and things like that is wrong in general. I disagree, because there's a lot of shows and movies and things that very much heavily involve politics. And to some degree, one of my favorite franchises, Metal Gear Solid, has a lot of commentary on that. It's about war and things like that. And some of your favorite media probably does. But the problem is, like, when it's so overt and so overdone, it's gonna be a problem. And that's what people need to realize. Now, I do think that demonizing either side is bad, and that's probably where I stand on that. In your media, if you're trying to be entertaining, and that's kind of like one thing. If you want to do it to the point where it's like part of the show, even then I think it's fine. But I think the demonizing of, like, if let's say a right-wing comic were to come out, let's say hypothetically, I don't think people should overreact or think it's wrong on its end. It should be criticized for it being a bad story. And I think that's where a lot of people kind of will kind of like be at ends. And that's where and that's what I'm saying for like the left, if people want to have like a left-wing comic or something like that, something that preaches like progressive values, and people want to complain on it just on that. And it's not that, it's that it's just badly written, horribly written.
Yeah, in like my opinion. Zombies in suits, they could very well look at these box offices and be like, this was a failure. This experiment didn't work. That guy that we hoisted up about, like, what if we made good movies? Time to fire him. Fucking throw him out that window. That was a terrible idea. We lost money on it. We're going to go back to quantity and just really generic, safe, boring slop. That's what the people want, clearly. I'd hate to see that, but I think...
yeah, ultimately, they need to stop worrying. I think most people would just say, I don't mind it maybe, but they just need to do less of it. That's where I stand. Hey, it's too much. Way too much. Bring it back. Let's have a good time. Hey, I'm not here to be preached at. That's pretty much it.
There is a chance. I can only hope they don't go that direction. But anyway, though, I wanted to just talk about this a bit.
Yeah, but the big budget films, a lot of things, reasons people want to come in. There's so many things, bad written films, all kinds of things that have flooded the market. That's just happening.
Interesting to see Marvel is no longer like the guaranteed infinite money glitch juggernaut that it used to be. Yeah. Though, of course, it is.
I just don't know, because like I feel like also he's not being fair to like a very large movie coming right next to it, which was Superman. I still think it's a shame that Fantastic Four didn't do better. Don't get me wrong, but I don't think he's bringing up anything to light that could have brought that. Because it was literally like a week away. It was like right next to each other. And it just doesn't help because people are going to want to see the one superhero film. And there is a bit of superhero fatigue where they're not going to sit back to back. But I do think that had to have some effect,
Still making tons of money in the box office. It's not like it's all doom and gloom. It's just in a weird spot right now where it's not guaranteed success every time. Anyway, that's about it. So yeah.
For sure. Yeah, great. Great show. Now, Be sure to like, comment, subscribe. Tell me what you thought. Take it easy, guys. And if you disagree, please comment below.